The 1960s were wrought with radical leftist movements all over the world. Between the rise of communism and the conflict at Vietnam, much of the world was in uproar and seeking a form of revolution. Mix these international conflicts with the downtrodden and defeated nation, and the conditions were ripe for terrorist organizations. At the start of the 1960s, Japan was still coping with the end of World War II and the San Francisco Peace Treaty, as well as the rise of communism and general discontent among the people. This discontent was expressed most profoundly through the student movement, protesting both the Japanese government and the United States government, specifically the U.S. occupation of Japan and the involvement in Vietnam. During this time, student organizations were rising across the country and treading into dangerous territory, including the Weather Underground in the United States, the Red Army faction in Germany, and the many splits of the Red Army in Japan. The first rendition of the Red Army split away from the student-led Communist League, referred to itself as the Red Army faction, and was led by Shihime Takaka and Takara Hiroyuki. This faction would orchestrate the 1970 hijacking of a Japan Airlines plane, Yodo. Shihime and Takahara were subsequently arrested for this attack, and Mori Sino would take over. Mori would join the Red Army faction with another student-led organization, the Kine Ampo Kyoto, led by Nagata Hiroko, which was also split away from the Communist League. This combination would change the organizational name to the United Red Army. As can be expected in terrorist organizations, there was much strife and disorganization in the ranks. Unhappy with the leadership of Mori, Fusako Shingabu split from the army and headed towards Lebanon to join forces with the Palestinians, creating the new Japanese Red Army. Shigenobu grew up in a poor, defeated family in post-war Japan. The combination of her poverty, her family, and her academics would create the perfect storm for terrorist activity. Continually trying to right the wrongs she witnessed in society, she would join the student movement on her very first day at university and never look back. Eventually, her desire for more extreme methods and her belief that violence was the only way to change the world would lead her to join the Red Army faction in Japan. As expected during that time, she held traditional supporting roles allotted to women in terrorist organizations. However, her strikingly good looks and her feverish passion would gain her a more active role, that or her continued romantic involvement with men higher in the ranks. As Mori gained leadership, she realized the progress was not being made, and she set her eyes on Lebanon. There is debate regarding how she actually got to Lebanon. Some who recognize Shigenobu as the true leader of the JRA say she married a man simply to change her name and gain a passport out of her country. Others argue that her husband was the true leader and Shigenobu was simply supporting him and gained leadership upon his death. With her husband gone and the help of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, Shignabu made her presence known. In a series of attacks spread out over 5 years, the Japanese Red Army would send the message to try and incite worldwide revolution. Obviously, they failed on that front, but towards the end of their attacks, they were aimed at rescuing members that had been taken prisoner. Almost as quickly as the Japanese Red Army came on the scene, they began to fade away. Never losing dedication, Shignabu Fusako remained in Lebanon until 2000, when she returned to Japan and was arrested almost immediately. In April of 2001, Shignabu made the official announcement that the Japanese Red Army was no longer a terrorist organization and had officially disbanded. The actions of the Japanese Red Army were unquestionably horrific, but does the organization meet the qualifications of a terrorist group? The actions of all three factions of the Red Army Faction, United Red Army, and the Japanese Red Army, were attempting to bring about political and social change, specifically a worldwide revolution by the use of violence. All three groups ultimately had the same goal, but Shignabu Fusako and the Japanese Red Army seemed to be the only organization capable of maintaining focus, as opposed to the other factions who continually fought among themselves, often causing mass destruction and leading to the dismantling of their own groups. Is this due to the help of the PFLP or Shignabu's leadership skills? There are opposing arguments and research on the leadership of Shignabu. While there is evidence to support the argument that Shignabu was the leader from the beginning, there are also other arguments that claim she was simply the support to her husband and upon his death took the leadership position. It is easy to believe this understanding in the male-dominated culture of both Japan and Lebanon, but the evidence is inconsistent and stereotypical. With titles such as the Mistress of Mayhem, Empress of Terror, and the Red Queen, it is difficult to believe that Shignabu was riding shotgun instead of driving.